Hello everyone, Andy here, and here's what you can look forward to in today's episode. In today's episode, I was joined by New York Jets 2025 International Fan of the Year, Olivia Peebles, who returns to the show to tell the tale of her experience going to Green Bay and announcing a draft pick. Olivia couldn't speak highly enough of Green Bay as a place.
If anyone can make it to Green Bay, whether you're a Packers fan or not, to watch a game, please go. Please just experience that once. And I promise you won't regret it. Everyone was lovely as well.
She discusses the frantic nature of being called up after a trade.
And then all of a sudden, in the corner of my eye, this Jets NFL representative, like, where's Olivia? Where's Olivia? Where's Olivia?
And much more as Olivia goes through her draft experience and what great things the New York Jets did for her and her partner. Hope you guys enjoy. Hello and welcome back to the Across the Pod NFL podcast. I am, as ever, your host, Andy Davis, for today's episode. Now, before we get on to the episode, let's head to On This Day. Now, first time for this new segment on the podcast, nothing actually happened on this day, on May 24th. But we have three people who were born on this day. These were Jordan Mason, Nelson Aguilar, and Chidobe Awuzie. So last year, we brought you 3 episodes in the off-season where we interviewed UK International Fans of the Year who got to go on to the draft in Detroit and announce their draft picks. These were Dan Hambridge, James Gowers, and Ryan Farden. Now, these were all brand new guests on the show. They hadn't met me before and vice versa. But our guest today was the Jets International Fan of the Year, and also she's been on the podcast a lot of times before. Welcome back to the show, Jets International Fan of the Year from 2025, Olivia Peebles. Olivia, how are you? How are things?
Yeah, I'm good. Still living in the days of being Jets International Fan of the Year and the draft experience, which we'll get on to. But yeah, it's a quiet time for the NFL at the minute, even though the tush-push thing has just been determined. So yeah, it's all good.
Yeah, I mean, it was really good to see your moment, and we will get onto it later on. But how does that all make you feel when you're hearing, my intro just then calling you International Fan of the Year? Like, how does that make you feel hearing that? Has it sunk in yet? Does it still feel a bit surreal?
Yeah, it definitely feels surreal. I don't, even though kind of the draft happened and everything, and I've had a moment in the sun a little bit, it doesn't feel like it's real, and it's still a massive honour because I know how many loyal and dedicated and Jets fans there are in the UK and Ireland and across the world, and how long they've been supporting the Jets as well. I know people who support the Jets in the 70s, 80s, so it's a bit of pressure to represent Jets fans internationally, but it's an absolute honour, and the rest of the International Fans of the Year, they did an amazing job of representing their team as well. So yeah, this year has been a bit of a dream so far. But yeah, it's been fantastic.
And of course, you're getting your team once again in London this year. I mean, a lot of teams don't get back unless your name's Jacksonville Jaguars. So how cool is that to see your team once again be in the UK for a game?
Yeah, again, absolutely amazing. And with the home team as well. We were the road team against the Vikings last year, which despite the score was an amazing experience. So now that the draft's out the way, and we enter what feels like the dog days of the NFL a little bit into the summer, we can really start to get excited about season starting, and then all the London games, specifically the Jets of course, but Ireland, Spain of course as well, Australia next year. So yeah, it feels like a really exciting time for the NFL internationally, just as a whole. But as a Jets fan, yeah, it's really special at the minute.
And of course, you are a Jets fan, and you've already told the show before on your first appearance why you're a Jets fan. But there are some people who listen to this show today that haven't come across you before or listened to an episode where you've been involved and don't know why you're a Jets fan. So just to familiarise the audience with why you're a Jets fan, what made you pick them?
Yeah, so I became a Jets fan around about 2015. So I've not really seen much success. But how it came about was my sister, she moved over to America, which was 11 years ago now. She moved to New Jersey, and long story short, she married a Jets fan. He was also a former college player, he played for Syracuse. for those who follow college ball. And so it felt like a really natural step to support the Jets. We went to what's colloquially known as the Snoopy Bowl, which is the annual preseason game between the Jets and Giants in August at MetLife. And yeah, from that game on, which we won, from that game on, even though it was preseason, I felt a real connection to the Jets, and I wanted to kind of share that with everyone. So the UK, well, it was the UK Jets fan club was set up by Seb, and I wanted to help out, so I got in touch with him, and we just grew. We that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to connect Jets fans not only across the UK but Ireland now as well. Hold watch parties, hold pre-London game, pub events, that sort of thing. So yeah, that's how I got into becoming a Jets fan. That's what I do at the minute. And yeah, as disappointing as the Jets are, it feels like they just get more and more disappointing as the years go on. Like the connection to the team and the love for the sport just grows. So yeah, it's like I said, it's a massive honour to be the international fan of the year for the Jets, and that's a little bit of my kind of backstory and history with the team.
Yeah, I mean, you've done some really cool stuff, and this is obviously a big reason why you've got given the honour of being the international fan of the year for the Jets. I mean, you've done so much cool stuff. I'm seeing your work in London last year when you played the Vikings and all the stuff you did pre-game, and you know I've met you in New York for a game there, and you've been to games as well, including the UK and US. You must be almost on double-digit games by now. You've been to a fair few Jets games in person.
Yeah, oh, I'm trying to think of how many I've actually been to. I know there's fans out there, and my hat's off to them, who go over to MetLife every year without fail, who do the road games. Um, Probably not quite in a financial position just yet, to do that, but one day that is kind of the aim, to at least go once a year and then maybe do a couple of road games in the US. Um, but I think I've been to six, including preseason games. Um, It'll be seven with the upcoming London game. And my record isn't too bad, actually. I think I've seen 3 wins and 3 losses, which is good for the Jets. I feel like I need to caveat everything because the Jets aren't a normal NFL team. So yeah, it's some of the trips and road games that some of the Jets fans go on are like of a dream. So that's definitely the aim. But once I get a bit more established in my career, I'll look to go once a year at least.
So your record is what 3-3 in your first 6 Jets games. That's probably better than a lot of Jets records after 6 games in any season.
Exactly, absolutely. So I'll take that for definite.
So let's head on to the NFL draft itself. Now, you were a big part of that. We will get onto your experience on draft day in a bit, but just talk the history behind the draft. What was your first sort of memory of the draft? I mean, was there like a particular moment or particular location where it just sticks in your mind as maybe when you first ever came across or watched an NFL draft?
Yeah, absolutely. So right now I'm a big draft nerd. I absolutely love the draft, not just for the Jets, but for all the teams. I love studying the players, talking about them, debating with other fans. I love it. I think my first real introduction that I can remember watching it and staying up till after o'clock in the morning was when the Jets drafted Sam Darnold in 2018, which is feels like quite a long time ago now, especially with Darnold's career trajectory. And I really thought, I was like, right, I've had 3 years of watching the games. It's not been great. But now we've done what other teams do and drafted this really young, exciting quarterback. We've traded up. Like, this couldn't possibly go wrong, right? And obviously we know it did. So yeah, I remember really feeling hopeful for that, and thinking, wow, a new Jets era. And then obviously when that didn't work out, the Zach Wilson draft really stands out, 2021. Well, I was thinking, right, okay, we failed Sam Darnold, sorry. We've now got really good head coach, really good GM. What can go wrong? And obviously it went wrong again. So those two drafts really stick out for me, as kind of a beacon of hope. And I think it does for many fans when you draft a quarterback, that you come out of it like really hyped, like this is going to be your next 10 years or whatever. And we know that's not typically the case, none more so than the Jets. But yeah, definitely the 2018 draft where we drafted Sam Darnold was kind of the moment where I really fell in love with the draft, and I really liked the idea and the concept of players having that moment, because in other sports, well, in other non-US sports, they don't get that moment. It's usually some in the know Fabrizio Romano who's doing it, who's ruining those transfers and that sort of thing. So I really like how the US sports do it, that they give the players their time to shine. So yeah, while it wasn't the greatest draft in the world for the Jets, it's one that sticks out for me.
And would you ever have thought back when you're watching Sam Darnold getting drafted in 2018 that 9 years later that'd be now, that you'd be at the draft itself, not only being at the draft but also announcing things? Did you ever think that would be happening when you watched a draft all those years ago?
Absolutely not. I always thought it looked cool when like they would kind of pan out to the crowd and it would be just a ton and absolute massive people just stood there for hours. I always thought it'd be cool to like at least be in the city for the buzz and that sort of thing, especially with the Jets always drafting quite high up. But to be there and to be there in a place like Green Bay, which is definitely unique in the best way possible, that was beyond kind of whatever I thought would be possible. So to say that I've done it is definitely like bucket list stuff for me.
Absolutely. I mean, what was the buzz like? Because obviously Green Bay, there's a kind of thing now where you can only host a Super Bowl if you've got like a roof, and Green Bay haven't got that, and it's sort of, they don't tend to give it to cold city teams. I mean, Minnesota had it a few years ago, but that was because they had, a dome and they had a roof. Green Bay doesn't really get the opportunities to host something like a Super Bowl, so I think this is the next best thing the city could host. I mean, for a first time hosting such a small town like Green Bay, such a small place where it is such a football place. That must have been just an amazing buzz around the city, just being in amongst it on the days leading up to it, on the day itself, maybe the day afterwards. That must have been just an incredible atmosphere in that city.
Yeah, so when I first found out that the draft was in Green Bay, before I'd even like thought about like putting myself forward for international fan of the year, I did think, oh, that is definitely a unique place. Obviously, it's such a historic place when it comes to football, and you really felt that like everyone in that city lives and breathes the Green Bay Packers and Wisconsin in college football, and you can really feel that. And I did listen to Dan, who was the Packers International Fan of the Year. I believe it was on your podcast actually last year when I had to keep it secret, and he was explaining about, I think, a previous trip to Green Bay. Before I was talking about his draft experience, and he was saying how it felt like a town, and that's a really good way of putting it. It felt like small town America, but then you had this like gigantic historic stadium in kind of the middle of all these like houses, and it felt like a community, and obviously didn't have that city feel. So when we found out we were going to Green Bay, we were like, oh, this is definitely, it's not a New York, it's not an LA, it's not a Vegas, but it was, and I was talking about this earlier actually, it was probably the best place for me that the draft could ever been. I know I'm biased because I've lived it, but to be sat inside of Lambeau Field, like like 10 rows up from the pitch, seeing the red carpet, like that's not going to happen in many other stadiums, I think. It was just so unique. It was so different to any other place in America. So to be able to stand out on that stage and then to see Lambeau in the background and just hundreds of thousands of people, like that's an experience money can't buy. And don't get me wrong, America has some lovely, amazing, gigantic cities. New York obviously being one of them, but you won't be able to replicate that anywhere. So it's really hard to describe, but the atmosphere is just football, football, football. So yeah, it blew me away. I was overwhelmed in the best way possible, and it's definitely something. If anyone can make it to Green Bay, whether you're a Packers fan or not, to watch a game, please go. Please just experience that once. And I promise you won't regret it. Everyone was lovely as well. I'll point that out. Everyone was really welcoming. So yeah, definitely unique, but absolutely amazing.
Yeah, shout out to Dan Hambridge, friend of the show, there, making an appearance on the episode. Yeah, you mentioned it then, Green Bay. I mean, yeah, having been there myself for a game, I mean, it is for me, the best stadium in the league. But I wouldn't say by country mile, but I think it is. I think it is the best because I think we're seeing far too many stadiums these days have sort of a modern day feel, and they also feel, also samey. They all feel like they all sort of are the same sort of model approach to building a stadium. But I feel like Green Bay has just kept its originality, and the seats are aluminium, and they are just. It's just a. It feels like you're watching a game in the 60s. I feel like when I'm watching that, I feel like I've gone back in time a little bit. It's so old school, and I absolutely like you would really recommend that experience. And that really leads to my next question was more about your journey there, because Green Bay's the tour city. It's not an easy place to get to. I mean, I had to fly to Chicago and then from Chicago to Green Bay. I remember you talk about being a football town. I mean, I remember my flight from Chicago to Green Bay. Everyone on that flight, bar one person, was going to the game, and it was all Packers and Titans fans. And I remember then when you get on the plane, you're approaching Green Bay, and then you sort of pass Lambeau Field on one of the windows, and everyone's sort of scrambling to the one end of the plane it's at and trying to find and have a look into Lambeau Field. I mean, how was your journey down? Was there any sort of any issues with the flight from the UK? Was there any sort of stumbling blocks? Did it go smoothly? How was that overall journey? Because it's like I said before, not exactly an easy place to get to in America.
Yeah, that's so true. And we were speaking to some of the airport workers on our way out, and they said it's just been, the experience and all the people and everyone's just been beyond what they're ever been used to, even in Packers weekend. Because the Green Bay Airport itself is very, very small. It's very regional. I describe it like the size of Teesside Airport, which I appreciate is not a people won't get that reference, but it is a really small airport. When I say it's like a small town, it does have that feel. The journey itself was brilliant. Like I did the same, so I flew from Newcastle, which is about 45-minute drive from where I live, Newcastle to Heathrow, Heathrow to Chicago, Chicago to Green Bay, and it went smoothly. There was a little bit of a touchy moment where we didn't think we would get through immigration in time in Chicago, and that was the last flight to Green Bay, and the next flights were all sold out because of the draft. So we were a little bit panicky. But from our side, it went as smoothly as possible. Everyone was lovely, and I believe we were on the same flight as. I don't know if Ashton Genty was on the flight, but definitely his entourage. So there's a random little tidbit for you. And on the flight to New York, coming away from Green Bay, we were on the same flight as Peter Schrager and Ian Rappaport, which was I literally stood next to both of them in LaGuardia, like at the luggage claim, and I was, I wonder what they're talking about. But yeah, everyone was lovely. A few of the fans didn't have such a smooth ride, and they ended up getting Ubers from very, very small regional airports. I think one group got an Uber from Chicago to Green Bay. So luckily it went all great for us, but some people had some definitely unique experiences flying into Green Bay.
An Uber from Chicago to Green Bay. That's got to be. How long is that to drive? I'm really curious about this because that can't be a cheap journey.
It wasn't. So everything was on kind of the teams in the NFL, so nothing came out of their pocket. But it was. I remember them. Is it 4 hours? I might have but yeah, because it is such a small airport, it's not like again New York, LA, where you've got flights like every hour, and because every flight was booked out, like if you miss that flight, if you miss that connection, you're Ubering from from Milwaukee, from Chicago. It was crazy, but we all got there eventually.
Yeah, I mean that's the most important thing, and I feel like Chicago as an airport is actually a bit of a cursed airport because I've been there twice, and both times had issues in that airport. And yeah, so I think there's definitely something about that airport. I think that causes a lot of issues. Maybe because it's easiest to get to out of, apart from maybe New York, one of the easiest ones. That and Boston seem the easiest to get to from many places. So yeah, that sounds like you avoided a bit of a panicky moment because I think that could have been. Know myself, who is someone who doesn't like leaving things to the last minute. The thought of that sort of stress is not something that I particularly would wish on it. Even my worst enemies. That sounds pretty horrific. But thankfully, you made it. You got to Green Bay, and you get there. And then before we get on to the day itself, going back to the whole International Fan of the Year and getting your sort of nominate, you kind of alluded to because I wasn't sure whether originally did you get nominated, did you put yourself forward? It sounds like you put yourself forward, and then I saw, and I believe it was with Thomas Morstead, where you had a Zoom call, and then out of nowhere he pops up and he tells you that you win, that you are the 2025 International Fan of the Year for New York Jets. Just what was that like? Because it must have been an awful shock to get sort of a call that you think it's nothing to do with that, and then out of nowhere he pops up and then tells you.
Yeah, so unbelievably, I don't like being the center of attention. I'm quite shy. So I had no intentions of kind of applying for it. I didn't apply for it last year. I was thinking, oh, that's way too much attention for me. But I did get sent it a few times, like, you should apply for this, like, some family members, really. It wasn't even, like, fellow Jets fans. And I kind of looked at the prize. I was like, oh, I really love the NFL draft. And how cool would that be to be in the draft? And I thought, I might have a shot. There was definitely no kind of, oh, well, I'm definitely, I'm definitely winning this, like that sort of thing. So I filled in the application, just talked a little bit about yourself, kind of what you bring as a fan, which is, as with a lot of things, talking about yourself is really difficult. Well, I find that anyway. And kind of why you deserve to be international fan of the year. And I ummed and ahed over it over like for weeks actually, because I was like, oh, this is a bit, I don't like it. Anyway, I submitted the application, completely forgot about it. And then in January, our marketing contact for the Jets, who we spoke to plenty of times, he said, "Oh, do you mind hopping on a call and just talking about the season and like any preliminary plans you've got going ahead?" At this point, the Jets had been announced that they were playing in London, so I kind of thought nothing of it. It was a very kind of standard ask. Hopped on a Zoom call and we were talking about the meetups we had in, obviously, the pre-match one in London against the Vikings. We went to Scotland for the first time, and we had Ireland, so we had Seb living in Ireland at the time, so we had a meetup there, just talking about it, talking about excitement for London. And then he said, "Oh, well, I'm sure you saw the video actually," and he said, "Oh, we've got someone special guest," and it was former Jets punter now, Thomas Morstead, and he said, "Have you ever been to Green Bay before?" Which is a question I don't think many people can answer yes to. And I was like, "No," and he said, "You've been selected International Fan of the Year, and you're going to Green Bay for the draft." And I was just like, whew. And then we also said that I've got 2 tickets for the Jets game this year, so I don't have to kind of worry about Ticketmaster queues. So that was really special, and I was but I had to keep it a secret for about 6 weeks, which was really difficult. So I kind of told my work, because they needed to know for annual leave, and they had no clue what the NFL draft was. I kind of told, obviously, like my close family, my boyfriend, of course, because he came out with me. But I had to keep it from all like my Jets friends and stuff like that. So it was really, really hard to keep it a secret. But once it kind of got revealed and stuff like that, and I spent a lot of time researching as well. So your podcast with the other international fans here came in very, very, very handy, because I was just desperate to find out as much information as possible, because I like knowing stuff. Don't like last minute stuff. I like knowing what I'm getting myself into. And all I knew was I was going to the draft. So that was, I'll give you props on that, because I was listening to the car on the way to work and stuff like that. So yeah, that was kind of how it happened, and then it just feels like it flew in a blink of an eye. The draft was here. I did attend actually the Jets flag football launch event with Quincy Williams, Isaiah Davis as kind of part of that. They were really cool, lovely to speak to. Amazing initiative. So that was kind of sandwiched in between. And yeah, and then April rolled around and I was the Jets International Fan of the Year representative. And yeah, it was just, I can't believe it's happened so quickly. It almost feels like a fever dream.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine, it's one of those things where, like, a lot of things happen in people's lives where it's sort of like an amazing moment where it's a long time from happening away from happening even, and then then it happens, and then before you know it, it's been 6 months, it's been a couple of years, and then before you know it, it's 5, 10 years, and I feel like I look back on my trip to America, and I think that was almost 3 years ago now, and I've spent so long planning it. I imagine for you as well, it'll get to that point in 3 years' time where you're watching a 2028 draft and you're thinking, "Wow, I did this 3 years ago." And that will just be one of those things in life that you'll look back on and be like, "Wow, I did this." And for me, it was really cool seeing you on it. Well, I think one TV channel actually didn't show you, but one TV channel did. I was a bit I was watching the one on whichever one it was on NFL Game Pass, and I remember thinking I was just waiting for you to come on. And I think the NFL Network had you on, but was it NFL Network or was it ESPN? One of the two.
ESPN had me on, and then the one on Sky Sports. I'm not sure what they didn't, because I got a load of texts and they cut to like adverts as soon as like you were like it was your turn, stuff like that. But ESPN showed me, so shout out to ESPN.
And then in terms of the day itself, I mean, I spoke to last year, we've alluded to already, James, Dan, and Ryan. And one of the key takeaways I found from all three interviews was the amount of waiting around you have during the day. And then out of nowhere, it's absolutely frantic. In your case, the Eagles had a trade with the Jets. Yeah, tell us about that, about the day itself leading up to it. And then when you got news that the Jets had traded a pick and you were making the pick, just what was that whole, and just tell us through what sort of, maybe not step by step, but certainly the key details about, what happened when the time came when you were about to make the pick.
So, we were told on the morning, so it was an early start, it was about 10 a.m. we had to be at the draft theatre, and we were told we wouldn't be told when we were picking. So the teams had already determined which pick was like for International Fan of the Year and so forth, but we didn't know because of the trading situation. So whenever it was our time, a couple of picks before, an NFL representative would tap us on the shoulder, and then we'd go backstage and we'd wait. So I believe we had 2 fifths maybe and 2 6th-round picks. So we didn't know whereabouts we'd be. I assumed it was kind of be like the 6th-round pick. I don't know why I assumed that. So we were just sat watching kind of the theatre, and then it flashed up like the Jets are on the clock. So we were like, oh, the Jets have traded up. The WhatsApp group was like, oh, the Jets have traded up. And then all of a sudden, in the corner of my eye, this Jets representative, this NFL representative, was like, "Where's Olivia? Where's Olivia? Where's Olivia?" And luckily, I wasn't at the toilet or anything. So it's like, "You're on," and I was like, "The Jets are on the clock, how man?" So like, "Come." So we literally sprinted. It wasn't like a light jog; it was a dash. So we sprinted like round the back. So we were like in the inner circle part. So we sprinted like across the kind of the seated area, which was the full length of the stage, sprinted like backstage as well. And it was like, so we got into this tiny little control room, I think. And you had like a big TV screen, you had the draft, and then they had like what I can only describe as like an Excel spreadsheet. It wasn't, it was a bit more sophisticated, but the woman backstage was like, "It's okay, the Jets haven't like put the pick in yet. Take a breath," because I was like, like out of breath, like from all this running. So they just said, "Watch the screen and it'll kind of pop up when it's been confirmed." So I was like intently watching the screen, like kind of players' names running through my mind, like who have they traded up for? Who could this possibly be? And then it flashed up Malachi Moore, DB Alabama. I was like, okay, first of all, that's a good name. That's not a complicated name, but they have like the phonetic spelling on the card, so that's not an issue. Each player has their own card printed out, so it's not a case of where they're writing the names. Every player has their card printed out. They just put like the number, so like the 130th pick. But I got 2 cards, so I got the trade cards. I got to keep that, and then so that's the one that said Philadelphia Eagles have traded with the New York Jets, and then the actual name out. So they said, take a deep breath. You're gonna go, give it a bit of welly. They didn't phrase it like that. Some of the other fans had like whole speeches rehearsed. Like they had they had quips and they were going to do crowd work and stuff like that. That's not my style. They were great. Don't get me wrong. It all happened within the like 5 to 10 minutes. So I didn't really have time to think. Went out on the stage. Don't butcher it. don't trip over, don't end up like on TikTok with like trending or anything like that. But I got it out. I'm very happy with how it ended. Um, yeah, and my phone just blew up actually because I've obviously family in America. And they were like, "We've just seen you on TV," and yeah, it was really a special moment. And I often watch that video back and think, "Wow, I can't believe that happened." Just to see literally hundreds of thousands of people with Lambo to my left was it's just something, when a picture is ingrained into your mind and you'll forever remember that moment. Um, yeah, it was really hectic. It was overwhelming, but it was like one of the, not to be dramatic, one of the best moments of my life, and it'll just stay with me forever.
I think as well the actual player itself, but actually more, is going to be a player that will stick with you for a long time. I mean, are you going to go as far as maybe get a jersey with him on the back? Like he must have for you now, as long as he's a Jets player, some sort of real nostalgia, a real sentimental sort of feeling towards him.
Absolutely. So, I mean, hopefully he's a Jets player forever and ever. That'd be a really nice story. But I appreciate that the NFL doesn't work out that way. Hopefully, like I said, I think he was a great player at Alabama. I am really happy with the pick, kind of, if I disassociate him with myself. So, yeah, I'll follow his career, kind of, even if not with the Jets, just because I have that connection to him. And um, I think it was a great pick by the Jets, like I said. But you're absolutely right. I think I might save up and get a jersey eventually. See how his rookie year goes. But no, I think you're absolutely right. Whoever the Jets would have picked there, I'd have an affinity to. Um, yeah, it's just a really nice moment, and I hope he absolutely smashes it. And I mean, Aaron Glenn, I have no doubt will try and get the best out of him. So yeah, it'd be really nice to see him succeed on the Jets.
Well, as you can probably understand, I hope not.
That's fair. That's valid. That's valid.
And yeah, it's sort of just towards the end of the show. I mean, I don't know how long after the draft finished you went home, whether it's the next day or the day afterwards, but so did you get time to unwind afterwards and do, or was it simply a case of next morning, up in the morning, off on the flight home? Was there anything you did sort of post draft?
Yeah. So on the Sunday evening, sorry, Saturday evening, it's a bit of a chill one because the draft finished a bit early. But we had a really early flight on the Sunday for good reason because we flew to New York. So the Jets, and I can't praise the Jets highly enough, and I'm not just saying this because they chose me as a national fan of the year, but they were incredible with me, and the merch I got given and how they treated me and Alex, it was just absolutely amazing. They paid for flights for us to go to New York, stay a night in New York, um, just off Times Square. So
Nice.
I got to see my sister who lives over in America. They live near Philadelphia, so they drove 2.5 hours to New York. My brother-in-law and my nieces who I haven't seen in 3 years. So because it was a Sunday and they didn't have school, so they were able to drive up. We had dinner with them and we got to spend a couple of hours with them, which was just really lovely. So I'll forever be grateful for the Jets for that. So the Sunday it was free time in New York, which I spent with family. And the Monday that we got an Uber paid for by the Jets, Aaron Rodgers could never, an Uber to Florham Park, which is the training facility, had a tour of the facility, which was so cool. It was unbelievable the access we got. So we had a walk around where they practice, and the Jets. It was mini camp. So, but they still had sources there. Garrett Wilson was there, Justin Fields, um, Quinnen. It was really good turnout, so we got to kind of get a glimpse of them training. Not too much though. We got a tour of the indoor facility, and that's where we met Jamie and Sherwood, who's our linebacker. He's just signed a new contract. Had a really good season last year. Team MVP actually. Um, we had a good 20-25 minute conversation with him. He was really lovely. He was really down to earth. He asked loads of questions. He's excited to come back to London. He signed a cap for us as well. So that was really nice. And they also gave us lunch. So you can't knock a free
Wow.
lunch, can you? Um, so that was just an amazing way of ending what was just a fantastic trip. And then they also paid for our Uber to JFK. So it's the little things like that that really make it special. So yeah, they just treat us like royalty, both the Jets and the NFL. So for what they lack on the field sometimes, they make up for it in kind of the staff, and all the people we met were just so lovely, so welcoming. But yeah, that was, as a Jets fan, that was such a cool moment, and I'll again forever be grateful for that.
That's incredible. I mean, really cool. They've gone on. It's not just a case of you just got given a pick to announce that's it. They've taken you to New York, paid for the Ubers, paid for the flights, hotel, and they've gone out and they've even taken you to to the facility, got you to talk to players. Now I'm really intrigued actually, but I don't think I've never actually got to hear before. A little insight into what food did they give you? What lunch did you have? Like, what kind of food are they serving in New York training facilities?
You know what? It was really nice. It was really nice. So it was a mixture of obviously a lot of protein. So grilled chicken breast, shrimp, like really prawns, French onion soup, and then mixed veggies. They had like rice. They had like chicken fried steak as well. You can tell I paid a lot of attention to the food selection, like a whole salad bar. And then for drinks, they had like a drinks fountain. They had like water, juice, Gatorade, iced tea, because that's the same type of food the players eat as well. So as you can imagine, different players need different nutrition, but that was kind of in the staff bit. It was really nice, and I think actually in the report card that comes out at the end of the season, the Jets weren't highly rated on food. Woody Johnson got slated for that, but I'll praise the food and the facilities, because it, for an NFL player, it's probably the standard, but for me, it was like, this is fancy, this is nice, and it's free. So yeah, honestly, it was, again, they didn't have to do that, but they did, so it means a lot.
Well, if that's apparently one of the worst food out of all the teams, then I love. It must be amazing the food they get from the teams that were rated top. Because I mean, if you're saying it was good and it was one of the worst teams, then just imagine what it was like. Top rate. I don't know who that top rated team were, but I can imagine. I mean, I don't really. I'm not shocked by that, because the kind of money they have, it should be good food. But yeah, at the same time, no, that's So basically, you got to eat like an NFL player for a day, which must have been quite a cool thing to do.
It was.
Well, there we are. That is the end of the episode. Olivia, it's been great to talk to you about your draft experience. It's been so good seeing your journey and seeing when you got nominated and then get to see you on the stage announcing the pick. Now there'll be people who watch this podcast on YouTube or listen to it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and they'll be a Jets fan, and they're maybe new to the sport or new to the Jets, or they haven't really got mixed in with the fans. You, of course, you're a big part of the UK and Ireland Jets fan club. Tell the people who are listening or watching where they can basically join the fan club if they want to be part of it.
Yeah, so like I said, we cover the whole of the UK and Ireland and beyond. You can find us on Twitter/X, Instagram, Facebook, Patreon as well. So that's just UK and Ireland New York Jets fans. We are in the middle of organising meetups across the UK, hint hint. So that'll be really cool. And of course, we've already got London stuff booked. So if you are a Jets fan, or a Jets fan, or even if you're just an NFL fan, we've got pubs booked literally 10 minutes walk from Tottenham. So if you get a ticket next week for the Jets Broncos game, whether you're a Jets fan or not, please follow our socials, because we'll be announcing that soon. And yeah, go Jets, and thank you so much for letting me speak about this absolutely amazing experience. It's the more times I can speak about it, the more it just brings back so many happy memories. And yeah, hopefully the season follows such a good off season, but it's the Jets, so.
And finally, where can people follow you on socials?
Yeah, so we are UK NY Jets on Twitter X. Same on Instagram, UK and Ireland New York Jets Fan Club. Same on Facebook, UK and Ireland New York Jets Fan Club, and TikTok as well. Also, UK and Ireland New York Jets Fan Club. Bit of a mouthful, but yeah, please follow. We're really active. Or please drop us any questions as well. We're very much open to new members, new Jets fans. Yeah.
And yourself, as International Fan of the Year, where can people follow the Jets International Fan of the Year on socials?
Yeah, you can follow me on primarily Twitter, which is Olivia P711. You can follow me on Instagram, Olivia Peebles, TikTok as well. I've done a few videos on my draft experience. If you want a first-hand account of it, which is LivP711. I'm sure all the links will be somewhere. But yeah, that's where I am at. And if you want me to talk any more about about the draft experience, please just ask me, because I'll talk to anyone who will listen about it.
Well, there we are, and do give both her a follow and also the UK and Ireland Jets fan club if you want to be part of that community. In the meantime, this has been the Across the Pod NFL podcast. I've been, as ever, your host, Andy Davis, and also thank you to our guest today, returning guest, Jets International Fan of the Year, Olivia Peebles, and we will see you guys next time.